My parents said, "You're doing well now, so why not pay double?" After moving my unemployed brother into the apartment I was paying for. So I moved out, took every single thing I bought, and they sued me. I showed up to court with receipts, and they left with nothing. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hey folks, this is probably going to sound like one of those "you won't believe what my family did" kind of posts, but it's my actual life, and I'm still trying to process it. So this story is about how I got absolutely played by my own family, and not in a dramatic movie kind of way. More like they ran a whole scam and didn't even realize it. Or maybe they did. So rewind to about a year ago. I'd, 28 male, been working full-time at this marketing agency for a couple years. Doing all right. Nothing fancy, just decent hours, okay money, and I'd finally saved up enough to start looking for my own place. I'd been sharing an old rental with 2 roommates in a not-so-great area, and I was ready to live solo for once. That's when my parents, Graham, 55 male, and Bonnie, 54 female, told me they'd just bought this new luxury apartment downtown. They'd been looking at real estate for a while, and I guess they wanted to invest or diversify or whatever. At first I was like, cool, that's great for you, and didn't think much of it. But then, a few days later, Bonnie calls and says, "Lewis, we've been talking, and since you're looking for a place, why not just move into the apartment?" I was like, "Wait, really?" She said, "Yeah, it's just sitting there empty right now. And it's super close to your office, right?" And it was. Like, a 10-minute walk kind of close. That alone sold me. No more traffic, no more terrible parking. I could literally sleep an extra hour every day. They explained the terms. I'd live there for low rent, just enough to cover basic upkeep. I'd handle the utilities, keep the place in good condition, and treat it like my own. Seemed totally fair. I'd get a solid place downtown. They'd get someone reliable living there instead of trying to find strangers to rent to. Bonnie even said, "You've always been the dependable one, Lewis. We know we can trust you." Not gonna lie, that hit kinda nice. Growing up, it was always clear I was the responsible one. My younger brother Dylan, 23 male, was the wild card. Bounced around jobs, tried a dozen side hustles that went nowhere, lived with our parents off and on. Meanwhile, I went to school, got the degree, paid my bills, didn't cause chaos. So yeah, I accepted the offer. Moved in a couple weeks later. And to be clear, the apartment was completely empty. Like no furniture, no curtains, not even a microwave. But the layout? Gorgeous. Big windows, modern kitchen, tall ceilings. Just no personality. It looked like a blank canvas waiting for someone to care about it. So I got to work. Every paycheck, I'd buy something. First a mattress and bed frame, then a sofa. Then I upgraded to a desk for my remote work days, a decent dining table, shelves, blackout curtains. Seriously, those tall windows were a sunlight nightmare in the mornings. Rugs, art, plants, real ones too. I didn't half-ass it. If I was gonna live there, it had to feel like home. I spent months slowly turning it into a real living space. Like, Pinterest-worthy, but on a budget. I kept receipts for everything. Mostly just for myself, not for any future legal stuff or whatever. At the time, I genuinely thought, hey, I'm investing in my space. This is mine for now. Every time my parents came by, they were floored. Bonnie once said, "It looks like a real home now, thanks to you." And Graham nodded, "You've done a great job, son. It's more livable than we imagined." And it felt good, man. I'd wake up, make coffee, sit on my own couch, and actually feel proud. No more roommates, no more mismatched thrift store furniture, just me and my space. That peaceful, settled-in vibe lasted about 5 months. Then one Thursday, I'm heading out the door and I get a call from Bonnie. Totally normal voice, all sweet like usual. She asks how things are going, and I tell her I'm loving the place, still grateful, all that. And then, casually, she drops, "Oh, by the way, your brother's gonna be moving in with you soon." I literally froze in the hallway like someone had pressed pause on my morning. "Wait, what? Dylan's moving where?" "Into the apartment," she says, like she's telling me the weather. "Just for a little while. He's had kind of a rough stretch. It'll help him get back on his feet." I didn't know what to say. My mouth legit opened and closed like 3 times. So I finally go, "You're serious?" "Yes. We figured it wouldn't be a big deal. You've got the space and it's not like you're ever there during the day anyway, right?" Which was just wrong. I work remotely 2 to 3 days a week. I'm home all the time. I didn't even know how to react. It was so matter of fact, like I had no say in it. Like I was just the guy keeping the apartment warm for the actual family favorite to come crash when he felt like it. I didn't argue. Not because I agreed, because I was too shocked to form words. And then, get this, the very next day, Dylan shows up. Didn't even text, didn't call, just buzzed up to the apartment and walked in dragging 2 suitcases, a gaming chair, and a bag of frozen pizzas. Yo, what's up? Mom and Dad said I can crash here. That cool? No apology, no heads up, no offer to help with bills. He just dumped his stuff in the guest room like it was a dorm. And me? I just stood there staring at the guy who now lived in my home. And that, my friends, was the beginning of the end. The first full day with Dylan in the apartment set the tone real quick. I woke up to find the guest room door wide open, his stuff already exploding into the hallway. Shoes, random cords, a hoodie on the floor. The bathroom sink was covered in toothpaste. Kitchen counter, crumbs everywhere, 2 open snack wrappers, and a half-drank energy drink just sitting there. Not chilled, not sealed. Just there, like it was part of the decor. No, hey man, where should I put this? No sorry, made a mess. Just chaos. Day 1. By that evening, he'd rearranged the living room setup to better fit his gaming station. And when I say gaming station, I mean a full setup. PC tower, 2 monitors, LED lights, and a literal folding table from our parents' garage. He pushed my coffee table off to the side without asking, and set up camp right in front of the TV like it was his own studio apartment. He didn't ask permission. He just did it. So I asked calmly, "Hey, you planning to keep this in the living room or?" He shrugged. "Yeah, my room doesn't have enough outlets and I get better Wi-Fi out here." I just stared at him. No apology. No offer to adjust. Not even a fake, "Let me know if that's cool." I had to go in my room to work remotely the next morning. And of course, he's outside yelling at his teammates on some shooter game at full volume. I had meetings. My boss had to mute himself at one point to laugh and say, "Is that Call of Duty in the background?" Super professional vibe. I brought it up later and got the classic Dylan response. "Oh, just tell me when you're on meetings. I'll wear my headset." He never wore the headset. Every day that followed just added to the pile. Dishes stacking up in the sink even though I had already shown him the dishwasher. Leftovers disappearing. Milk half used and put back without the cap. One day I found a spoon in the couch. Like, not under a cushion, just sitting there, like it lived there now. The final straw that week was when I came home to Dylan, and 3 of his friends camped out in the living room, gaming, yelling, and trashing the place like it was their frat house. Empty takeout containers everywhere, my rug stained, kitchen sink overflowing, and one guy was eating straight out of the pot. Dylan just looked up and said, "Yo, hope you don't mind. They'll bounce soon." I didn't even respond, just grabbed my keys and left. If I stayed, I would have said something I couldn't take back. But here's the thing that really messed me up. At this point, I hadn't been told how long Dylan was staying. Nobody said, "Hey, it's just for a few weeks." There was no end date. And the way he was settling in? This wasn't temporary. This man had brought 3 pairs of shoes, a keyboard stand, and one of those massive beanbags. You don't bring a beanbag unless you're planning to stay. So, trying to play the adult, I called my parents and asked. "Hey," I said, "just wondering, how long is Dylan planning to be here?" Bonnie answered like it was nothing. "Oh, we're not sure yet. He just needs time to get back on his feet. He's been through a lot, you know." "What exactly has he been through?" I asked. "He quit his job at the warehouse, didn't like working retail, and moved back in with you." "That's not a crisis, that's just Dylan being Dylan." She sighed. "Louis, we just want you to be supportive. You've always been the stable one. We know you can handle it." And there it was. That sentence again. The one they always used to rope me into fixing things that weren't mine to fix. "You've always been the stable one." That used to sound like a compliment. Now it felt like a sentence. Later that night, I tried to have an honest talk with Dylan. I said, "Look, man, I don't mind helping out, but you gotta meet me halfway. This isn't just your crash pad. This is my home. You can't treat it like your dorm." He laughed like I was joking. "Bro, relax. I'll get out of your hair eventually." "Eventually when?" I asked. He shrugged. "I don't know, when things settle down." "Are you job hunting at all?" "Yeah, I've been thinking about some stuff. I might get back into reselling shoes or maybe do crypto again." My guy said, "Do crypto again," like it was a structured career plan. So at that point, I realized something important. Dylan wasn't just staying with me. He was living here now. So he should pay rent, right? Number The next day, when I was paying the monthly bills, I'm looking at the rent notice and casually say, "Hey, rent's due Friday. Do you have your share ready yet?" He doesn't even pause his game, doesn't turn his head, just mashes buttons and goes, "Oh, I don't pay rent." I thought maybe I misheard. "What?" He pauses for a second and goes, "Yeah, mom and dad didn't say anything about that. They just said I could stay here. They didn't mention rent." Like he was shocked I'd even ask. I couldn't even respond. I went straight to my room, sat down, and just stared at the floor for like 10 minutes trying not to punch a wall. The next morning, I called Bonnie again. "Hey, I talked to Dylan about rent, and he said he doesn't have to pay." Bonnie goes, "Oh, right. We didn't want to stress him out with money right now. He's in a bit of a rough patch." "So I'm the only one paying to live here?" I asked. "Well, you're doing well financially. We figured you'd be okay handling it for now. It's not that big of a deal." Not that big of a deal. I didn't even argue. I didn't yell. I didn't even sigh. I just sat there listening to them explain to me why being responsible meant I now got to sponsor Dylan's free downtown vacation. I started keeping track of everything after that. I had a folder in my email and a folder on my desk. I didn't know why I was doing it yet. Just had a gut feeling I was going to need it. And I wasn't wrong. I tried to go back to my normal routine. Work, errands, basic survival. But man, it's different when you know you're the only one covering everything. Suddenly, every light left on feels like someone burning money in front of you. Every 5-minute hot shower of his felt like a slap in the face. I'd hear the microwave running at 2 a.m., then find the remnants of a midnight burrito ritual exploded all over the inside, and guess who had to clean it the next day? I wasn't sleeping well. Every little noise annoyed me. I started wearing headphones in my own apartment just to tune out his loud TikToks and Discord calls. There was no peace anymore. Just a constant feeling of, this isn't how things were supposed to go. One night, I was eating dinner at the counter. Nothing fancy, just some pasta, and Dylan rolls out of his room, looks around and goes, "Dude, we're out of olive oil. You gotta grab more." "We?" I asked. "Yeah, for the apartment," he said, like I was the grocery department manager. I stared at him and said, "You know where the store is." He looked confused for a second and then said, "Oh, I thought you handled that stuff." Like I was the designated caretaker of the home he decided to freeload in. That's when I realized he was never going to step up on his own. Not with the way our parents handled him. And especially not after they reinforced the idea that I was supposed to just handle it. But still, I didn't blow up. I didn't lose it. I just nodded, took mental notes, and kept adding things to my ever-growing list. This was beyond annoying. It was turning into something I'd eventually have to take action on. I just didn't know when. Then, without warning, my parents invited me to lunch the following weekend. I met them at some small diner they liked, thinking maybe it was a check-in, or they wanted to talk about Dylan finally doing something with his life. Nope. Bonnie pulls out her phone, scrolls for a second, and hands it to me. It's a photo of the apartment. My apartment. I ask, "Why are you showing me this?" She smiles like she's proud. "We've been thinking of listing the unit online soon, maybe as a longer-term lease." Graham chimes in, "Yeah, the value's gone up a lot. And it's such a nice setup now. You've made it look fantastic." I blink. "What are you talking about? I'm living there." Bonnie goes, "We know, but we figured it's time to consider other options. Dylan could stay, of course, but maybe we rent out your portion." "My portion?" I laughed. I actually laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so surreal. "You mean kick me out and let Dylan keep living there?" They both looked uncomfortable for a second, but Graham pushed ahead. "Look, Lewis, you've had a good run. You've had affordable rent, downtown location. It's been great, but you're doing really well right now. It's probably time to find a place of your own." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You gave me the place," I said. "You said I could live there as long as I paid the rent, utilities, and kept it in good shape." I held up my end. Meanwhile, Dylan moved in uninvited and has done literally nothing. Now I'm the one being asked to leave? Bonnie gave me that fake soft tone I hate. "Lewis, don't make this emotional. We're just being practical." Graham added, "If you really want to stay, we can talk about it. But it's time you start paying what the place is actually worth. From now on, we're doubling the rent." I blinked. "Double it? What?" "We need the extra income right now," he said, like I was supposed to nod and say, "Ah, yes, of course. And it's fair, considering everything you're getting. We just can't keep offering it for cheap anymore." "So you want to raise my rent?" I said slowly. "While Dylan still lives there for free?" Bonnie jumped in. "We already told you he's not doing well financially, Louis. We thought you'd understand." Graham added without missing a beat, "Well, if you don't like it, you can move out." I just stared at them, waiting for the punchline, waiting for them to say, "Kidding, of course." But no one laughed. No one even flinched. They meant it. They were dead serious. So I'd spent months turning an empty unit into a full home, and now they were saying if I wanted to stay, I'd need to pay double, because Dylan couldn't pay anything. They didn't see it as unfair. They genuinely thought I'd be cool with that. Like I'd smile and say, "Sure, I'll subsidize the golden child while you lease out my peace of mind." I didn't even argue. Just paid my tab and walked out before I said something permanent. That night, I got home and looked around the apartment with new eyes. It didn't even feel like mine anymore. The space was still full of my stuff, but the vibe? Gone. I couldn't shake that conversation. It was like a timer had started counting down. I wasn't just annoyed now. I was being phased out of the thing I built. Dylan was playing some game when I walked in, as usual. He turned to me and said, "Yo, you think we can get one of those ice makers? Like the nugget kind?" I didn't answer. I just walked into my room and opened up the folder with all my receipts. Every single piece of furniture, kitchenware, decorations, light fixtures, shower curtain, every dime spent on making the place livable. Dated, sorted, itemized. I opened a Google Doc and started a running total. It wasn't just frustration anymore, it was documentation. I wasn't sure what the endgame was yet, but I knew I wasn't going to just walk away and let Dylan coast on my dime while my parents patted him on the back for getting settled. No way. I gave myself a deadline. One more week, then I was taking everything with me. And I do mean everything. I didn't tell anyone what I was planning, just started slow. First, I went through each room and made a checklist of what I bought. I went full accountant mode. Item, price, purchase date, store. If it was mine, it went on the list. That meant the couch, the bed frame, mattress, nightstands, desk, TV stand, TV, rug, lamps, toaster, silverware, shower curtain, bath mat, shelves, dining table, even the stupid little fake succulent plants I got for ambiance. All mine. I also checked the receipts folder I'd been keeping just in case something broke down. That folder became my golden ticket. Everything was in my name, with my bank card on the charges. Online orders had delivery confirmations. In-store stuff had physical receipts I'd tossed in a drawer. Not for legal reasons back then, just force of habit. Once I had the list down, I took updated pictures of the whole place, room by room, wide angles, close-ups, date stamped. A before gallery of what was about to get turned back into a hollow echo chamber. Then I booked a moving truck for Saturday morning, one of those box trucks you can rent by the hour. I got the biggest one available, just in case. Dylan still had no clue. The guy was busy binge-watching anime and playing Fortnite like he'd just discovered oxygen. If he wasn't gaming, he was on the couch eating cereal out of a salad bowl. He asked me midweek if I could grab more paper towels because we're out. I just said sure, then made a note to pack the half-used roll I already bought. Friday night rolled in, and I stayed up later than usual, going through drawers and closets. Packed everything that was mine into bins, bags, or boxes. I didn't touch anything Dylan brought, which wasn't much. Mostly laundry baskets filled with clothes and a box labeled random tech stuff that I'm 99% sure is just tangled wires he refuses to throw out. Around midnight, I took one last look at the apartment the way it had been. Still cozy, still fully put together, but not for long. Saturday morning, 9 a.m., I rolled that truck into the loading zone and buzzed up to the apartment. Dylan was still asleep. I started hauling stuff out. I had a checklist in one hand and my phone camera in the other, documenting everything. About an hour in, I'm halfway through clearing the living room, and Dylan finally wakes up. Comes out rubbing his eyes in pajama pants and goes, "Dude, what are you doing?" I looked up from rolling up my rug and said, "Moving." He looked confused. "What do you mean, moving?" "I'm leaving," I said. "Taking all my stuff. The stuff I bought. The stuff I've been paying for." He blinked like the sunlight offended him. "Wait, like you're actually moving out?" "Yep, today." He glanced around, saw the bare patch where the couch used to be, the TV gone, shelves cleared out. "You're really gonna take all of it?" "Every single piece. It was empty before me. It'll be empty after me." He looked around again and just goes, "Bro, what the hell am I supposed to sit on?" I shrugged. "Figure it out. Not my problem." Dylan stood there for a second like he couldn't believe it was happening. Then he pulled out his phone and said, "I'm calling Mom. Go ahead." Then 2 minutes later, my phone started ringing. Bonnie called first. I ignored it. Then Graham. Then both again. Then the texts started flooding in. "Louis, what's happening? Are you really taking everything? You can't do this." I didn't answer any of them. Just kept moving. I was on a mission. By noon, the truck was full. Apartment looked like a model unit nobody ever touched. Walls bare, rooms echoing. Only thing left was Dylan, standing in the middle of the floor like a confused stray in a food court. Right before I walked out, he goes, "You're screwing me over, man. What am I supposed to do now?" I said, "Pay rent, buy furniture, be an adult." Then I locked up and left. About an hour later, once I got everything into storage, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was Bonnie texting in all caps. "You cannot legally remove fixed items from the unit. This is theft." They were accusing me of stealing. Stuff I bought, stuff I installed, stuff I kept receipts for. So I replied once, and only once. Everything I took was mine. I have receipts, timestamps, photos. If you think you've got a case, feel free to sue me. And what do you know? They did. Next thing I know, I'm getting a letter from a lawyer saying they're suing me for $14,000 in stolen property. Claimed I gutted the apartment and compromised its intended function. Their words, not mine. I wasn't even mad. I was impressed. So I sent everything to my lawyer, Hannah. And when I say everything, I mean everything. My lawyer built the countersuit in less than a week. We weren't just defending. We were going after court fees and damages. At that point, it wasn't even about money. It was about principle. You want to treat me like I'm just supposed to take it? Fine. But don't act surprised when the one you leaned on walks away, taking everything you took for granted with him. Their lawyer was this guy named Richard something. Davis, I think. His first email to my lawyer was full of puffed up language about unauthorized removal of property, disruption of intended use, and lack of consent. My lawyer, who, by the way, is a total beast, read it and literally said, "Okay, so they've got nothing." She laid it out clearly. The apartment was legally theirs, yes, but everything inside it? Mine. Paid for, delivered in my name, and provable through a ridiculous trail of evidence. Receipts, time-stamped photos, emails, even text messages from Bonnie complimenting the space. It was all cataloged. The best part? I had a screenshot from a group text where Graham had literally written, "We're lucky Lewis made it livable. We didn't do a thing." That line alone made Hannah raise her eyebrows and say, "That's going in bold." Meanwhile, I was still living out of boxes in a short-term rental, waiting for this to wrap up. I didn't mind it. Peace and privacy felt like five-star luxury after the chaos of the last few months. Every day not waking up to Dylan slamming the microwave shut was a good one. The hearing date finally came in. Small claims court. Not a huge courtroom, no gavel banging or order in the court. Vibes, but still official. I showed up in a clean button-down. Graham and Bonnie came in acting like we were about to mediate world peace. Bonnie gave me this tight-lipped smile like she still thought this was a misunderstanding. Graham didn't even look at me. Their lawyer tried to kick things off with this whole spiel about expectation of shared furnishings and intent to provide the apartment as is. He even pulled out a printout of a grainy photo of the apartment, furnished, of course, and said, "This is how it was meant to be." Then Hannah stood up, pulled out our folder, and calmly said, "We have over 50 receipts, all in my client's name. We have time-stamped photos of the apartment completely empty the day he moved in. We have before and after comparisons. We have texts from the plaintiffs acknowledging his work and purchases. And we have utility records and maintenance costs, all covered by my client since day one." She didn't raise her voice once. She didn't have to. The judge looked through the stack we gave him, labeled, color-coded, even tabbed, and within 5 minutes, you could see where it was going. He asked their lawyer, "Do you have any receipts or documentation proving these items were purchased or owned by you?" Their lawyer coughed, shuffled some papers, and said, "We don't have receipts, but there was an implied agreement." The judge nodded slowly. Implied agreements don't override documented ownership, especially not when there's clear, consistent evidence over a long period. Bonnie looked like someone had just unplugged her. Graham tried to speak, but the judge cut him off. "You're the legal owners of the property. That's not in dispute. But the furnishings, decor, appliances, even the shower curtain, were purchased and provided by your son. That is not in dispute either." They were still trying to argue something about gifting the furniture because I didn't label it or make them sign anything. Hannah hit back with, "If putting a couch in an apartment qualifies as an irrevocable gift, we should all be terrified to lend anyone a chair." The judge chuckled. That was the moment I knew we'd won. Then he asked if I had incurred any financial harm or costs from their actions. That's when we pulled out the spreadsheet Hannah helped me finish. All my purchases, all my moving costs, the storage rental, the security deposit I'd had to pay for my short-term rental, the emotional stress. We didn't even go there because we didn't need to. The paper trail did the talking. End result? Case dismissed, with court costs awarded to me. They were ordered to pay me $8,400 to cover legal fees, moving costs, and damages. The judge even made a point to say my documentation was extremely thorough and persuasive. Graham looked like he'd swallowed a thumbtack. Bonnie didn't say a word. Afterward, as I was walking to my car, I got a text from Dylan. Bro, couldn't you have just talked to them instead of nuking the family? I blocked the number. 3 hours later, Bonnie tried calling me. I answered. Her voice came through all shaky but still putting on that fake sweet tone. Lewis, we don't have that kind of money. $8,000? Do you really think this was necessary? I stayed quiet for a second, then said, I didn't think it was necessary either, but you made it necessary. She let out a sharp sigh. You didn't have to be so dramatic. We're family. This should have been handled with a conversation, not a court case. And I hung up. Then came the email. We didn't realize how serious this was. We were just trying to help Dylan. We didn't mean to hurt you. Too little, way too late. You don't get to gaslight me for months, treat me like a walking wallet, then act surprised when I finally enforce boundaries. I don't care how unusual it is to get legal over furniture. I wasn't just defending my stuff, I was defending myself. And the message was loud and clear, I'm not your backup plan anymore. By the end of that week, they tried sending me a family group message about meeting up to talk. I didn't even read past the first sentence. I'm not interested in sitting around a living room pretending everything's fine while they tiptoe around what they did. They treated me like a renter when it was convenient, and like a family member when they needed grace. You can't have it both ways. After that, everything went quiet for about a week. Not gonna lie, I expected some kind of more guilt tripping, but it was radio silence. Part of me hoped maybe they'd finally realized how deep they messed up, but I should have known better. The silence broke when I got a call from the building manager of the apartment. He sounded confused and slightly annoyed. Hey, Lewis, just letting you know, your brother's been asking if we provide furniture now? I closed my eyes and sighed. Nope, that's between him and the people who threw me out. Apparently, Dylan had assumed once I moved out, my parents would swoop in and restock everything. But when he realized the place was stripped to the bones and they weren't replacing a thing, not even a chair, he started panicking. The dude had been sleeping on a yoga mat for 2 nights and using his hoodie as a pillow. Guess he finally figured out that "figure it out" wasn't just a phrase. It was his reality now. By the end of that week, I heard through a mutual cousin that Bonnie and Graham had been trying to offload the apartment entirely. They had listed it online, staged some photos, but weren't getting offers. Why? Because the unit looked like a ghost town. No furniture, nothing to make it look like anyone ever lived there. Bare walls, scuffed floors where the rug used to be, and apparently Dylan left a pizza box in the fridge during a tour. Class act. Their little dream of turning the place into an income stream was tanking fast. And then came this part. They couldn't even afford to furnish it properly, because they'd spent thousands on legal fees just to try suing me, and lost. My lawyer fees? Covered? Storage costs? Reimbursed? Their Punish Lewis fund turned into a financial sinkhole. They tried to hold onto the apartment for another month. Dylan was still there, but now he was complaining nonstop. According to that same cousin, he texted our parents every other day with, "This place sucks. I have no chair." And my personal favorite, "Why didn't you tell me adulting costs so much?" Why indeed, Dylan? Eventually, they made the decision to sell the unit just to stop bleeding money. I heard Bonnie was heartbroken. She had some fantasy about Dylan settling in, maybe getting his act together, them visiting him downtown for brunch like some upper-middle-class sitcom family. But instead, she had to sit in a bland, echoing apartment and explain to realtors why there were no furnishings, why the walls still had command strip damage, and why their son was eating dry cereal from the box in the background. The unit sold fast, but not for what they hoped. After taxes, realtor fees, and covering what they owed me, they basically broke even. Maybe walked away with a tiny profit, but definitely not enough to make all that drama worth it. As for Dylan, he had to move back home with them. Again. And this time, the entitlement turned into full-blown resentment. Because guess what? He was under the impression that I ruined his chance at stability. He blamed me for taking his apartment, for not just leaving the stuff behind, for dragging everything into court. He messaged me from a new number about 2 weeks after the sale. Paragraphs of half rant, half begging. Stuff like, "You could have just been chill about it. You made it worse for everyone. They're struggling now, and it's your fault." I didn't respond. Didn't need to. He told on himself with every line. He was finally getting his life together. On my back. Meanwhile, I was doing fine. With the settlement money and everything I recovered, I was able to put a down payment on my own place. Nothing flashy. Small condo just outside the city. But it's mine. No Dylan. No unannounced guests. No passive-aggressive texts about olive oil and paper towels, just peace. I didn't invite anyone to the housewarming. No parents, no extended family, just a couple friends and a pizza. It wasn't a party, it was a boundary. My line in the sand. My way of saying, you don't get to walk back in just because you're done throwing a fit. Eventually, Graham tried to reconnect, sent me a message that said, we made mistakes. You're still our son. Yeah, no kidding. But that's the thing about mistakes. You don't get to use them like a get-out-of-jail-free card after you've set the whole building on fire. If you take someone's effort, drain it dry, and then try to flip it for profit, you don't get to cry family when it backfires. They had a choice. They could have backed me when I asked for fairness, could have told Dylan to pull his weight, could have supported both of us without stepping on me to lift him up, but they didn't. They gambled on me being their reliable one forever. Thought I'd stay quiet, stay helpful, stay cheap. They were wrong.